to match Yoshiro's, reared up, kicking with its front legs and then leaping forward. Its ironclad hoof smashed a pair of attackers in the face, sending them bloodied and battered to the ground. It came down on a third man, crushing him, but enemy soldiers were now massing on all sides. Yoshiro turned one way and back again. He'd taken the field against the shogun, who arrived with overwhelming numbers. The battle had gone predictably, and Yoshiro was facing the end. He turned and galloped toward another formation of troops, but they too held their ground, cowering behind a forest of spears. Perhaps they meant to capture him. Perhaps the shogun would demand he commit seppuku in front of the court. Such an end Yoshiro would not accept. He urged his horse one way and then the other, but with each move, the foot soldiers drew back. Yoshiro pulled up. He had no wish to see his steed uselessly killed. It was a beautiful animal, and his only advantage. "Fight me," he demanded, turning from quarter to quarter. "Fight me if you have any honor." A primal grunt caught his attention. A spear was hurled his way. With superb reflexes, Yoshiro parried the incoming missile, slicing through the wooden shaft with his sword, both deflecting and dividing it. The weapon fell harmlessly in two pieces. "Do not attack," a voice shouted from behind the mass of troops. "His head belongs to me." The soldiers straightened at the sound of the command, and one section of the circle opened, allowing the rider to enter. Yoshiro recognized the silk draping of the horse, the golden breastplates of the armor, and the winged helmet. The shogun had come to fight at last. "Kazimoto," Yoshiro called out, "I did not think you'd have the courage to cross swords with me in person." "I would not allow any other to vanquish a traitor," Kazimoto said, drawing a sword of his own, a katana like Yoshiro's, though it was a darker weapon with a thicker blade. "You swore allegiance to me as feudal lord. You are in rebellion. And you swore to protect the people, not murder them and steal their land. My authority is absolute," the shogun bellowed, "over them and over you. I cannot steal what is already mine. But if you beg for it, I will be merciful." The shogun whistled, and a small group of prisoners were brought out. Children, 2 boys and 2 girls. They were forced to kneel while servants of the shogun stood behind them with daggers. "I have more than 1,000 captives," the shogun said, "and with your rabble defeated, nothing stands between me and the village. If you surrender now and take your own life, I will kill only half the prisoners and leave the village standing. But if you fight me, I will slaughter them to the last man, woman, or child, and I'll burn the village to ash." Yoshiro had known it would come to this, but he also knew that many in the shogun's ranks had grown weary of the brutality, expecting it to land on them sooner or later. That gave him one flicker of hope. If he could kill the shogun here and now, wiser minds might prevail. At long last, there might be peace. Yoshiro considered his chances. The shogun was a cunning warrior, strong and possessing great expertise, but he and his horse were unmarked by blood, sweat, or soil. It had been a long time since the shogun fought for his life. "What answer do you give?" Yoshiro kicked his horse in the side and charged, raising his gleaming sword above his head. The shogun reacted slowly, but deflected the attack at the last moment and urged his animal forward, passing Yoshiro on the left. The warriors swapped sides, turned and charged once again. This time, the armored animals collided at the center of the circle. Both horses buckled from the impact. Their riders were thrown to the ground. Yoshiro sprang up first, attacking with a deadly thrust. Kazimoto parried the assault and jumped to the side, but Yoshiro spun and slashed downward. With each clash of the swords, sparks flew from the blades. The shogun regained his form, and an uppercut from him tore Yoshiro's helmet off, opening a gash on his cheek. one of Kazimoto's shoulder boards. Angered and in pain, the Shogun came up and hacking, using a deadly combination. Yoshiro reeled from the attack, nearly losing his balance. The Shogun went for his throat with a cut that should have separated head from body. But with a desperate flick of the hands, Yoshiro deflected the strike with the flat side of his sword. The impact should have broken his weapon into useless pieces, but Yoshiro's blade took the serpent's jaw. East China Sea, 90 miles from Shanghai, 12 months before the present day.
An unabridged recording of Dog on It, a Chet and Bernie mystery, by Spencer Quinn, narrated by Jim Frangione, and directed by Erica Jensen. This book is copyrighted 2009 by Spencer Quinn. This recording is copyrighted 2009 by Recorded Books. Madison, a well-behaved, gifted teenager who may or may not have, has most definitely gotten herself mixed up with a bunch of unsavory characters. When she doesn't arrive home after school, her frantic mom turns for help to Bernie, a down-on-his-luck private investigator, and his canine sidekick, Chet. And now, Dog on It.
Chapter 1. I could smell it, or rather the booze on his breath, before he even opened the door. But my sense of smell is pretty good. Probably better than yours. The key scratched against the lock. Finally found the slot. The door opened and in, with a little stumble, came Bernie Little, founder and part owner. His ex-wife Lita walked off with the rest, of the Little Detective Agency. I'd seen him look worse, but not often. He mustered a weak smile. Hey, Chet. I raised my tail and let it bump down on the rug, just so, sending message. I'm a little late. Sorry. Need to go out? Why would that be? Just because my back teeth were floating? But then I thought, what the hell? The poor guy. And I went over and pressed my head against the side of his leg. He scratched between my ears, really digging his fingers in the way I like it. Bliss. How about a little more? Down the back of the neck, I hunched my shoulders a bit, giving him the idea. Ah, nice. Very nice. We went outside, me and Bernie. There were 3 trees out front, my favorite being a big shady one, just perfect for napping under. I lifted my leg against it. Wow. Hadn't realized I was that close to desperation. The night filled with splashing sounds, and I zoned out a little, listening to them. I managed to stop the flow, not easy, and save some for dampening the rock at the end of the driveway and the wooden fence that separated our property from Old Man Hydrix next door, plus a squirt or 2 between the slats. Only doing my job, but don't get me started on Old Man Hydrix. Bernie was gazing up at the sky. A beautiful night. Soft breeze, lots of stars, lights twinkling down the canyon. And what was this? A new tennis ball on the lawn. I went over and sniffed it. Not one of mine. Not anyone's I knew. Want to play fetch? I pawed the thing. How did it get here? Cooped up all day, but I'd kept an ear cocked. Except for when I dozed off, of course. Bring it here, Chet. I didn't want to. Not with this stranger's smell on it. Come on. But I never said no to Bernie. I gave the ball a lick or 2, making it mine. Then I took it over to Bernie and dropped it at his feet. Bernie reared back and threw the ball up the canyon road. Uh-oh! Where'd it go? Where'd it go? He really couldn't see it? That never failed to surprise me, how poorly he saw after the sun went down. I tore after the ball, bouncing up the middle of the road in plain sight. Got my back feet way forward and sprang, totally airborne, snaring it on a short hop, the way I like, then wheeling around in one skidding motion and racing full speed, head low, ears flattened by the wind I was making, and dropped it at Bernie's feet, putting on the brakes at the last moment. If you know something more fun than this, let me in on the secret. Got it on the short hop? Couldn't tell from here. I wagged my tail. That quick 1-2 wag, meaning yes. Not the over-the-top one that wags itself and can mean lots of things. Some of which I'm not too clear on myself. Nice. He picked up the ball and was rearing back again when a car came slowly down the street and stopped in front of us. The window slid down and a woman leaned out. Is this 13309? Bernie nodded. I'm looking for Bernie Little, the detective. You found him. She opened the door, started to get out, then saw me. Is the dog all right? Bernie stiffened. I felt it. He was standing right beside me. Depends what you mean. You know, is he safe? Does he bite? I'm not that comfortable around dogs. He won't bite you. Of course I wouldn't. But the idea was planted in my head, for sure. I could tell by all the saliva suddenly pooling in my mouth. Thanks. You never know about dogs. Bernie said something under his breath, too low for even me to hear, but I knew I liked it, whatever it was. She got out of the car. A tall woman with long, fair hair and a smell of flowers and lemons, plus a trace of another smell that reminded me of what happens only sometimes to the females in my world. What would that be like? Having it turned on all the time? Probably drive you crazy. I glanced at Bernie, watching her, patting his hair into place. Oh, Bernie. I'm not sure where to begin. Nothing like this has ever happened to me. Nothing like what? She wrung her hands. Hands are the weirdest things about humans, and the best. You can find out just about everything you need to know by watching them. I live over on El Presidente. She waved vaguely. El Presidente. Was that the one where the sewer pipes were still going in? I was bad on street names. Except our own. Mesquite Road. But why not? I didn't need them to find my way. My name's Cynthia Chambliss. I work with a woman you helped. Who? Angela DePesto. Mercy. I remembered endless nights parked in front of motels up and down the state. We hated divorce work, me and Bernie. Never even accepted any in the old days. But now we were having cash flow problems, as Bernie put it. The truth was, I didn't really know what cash flow problems meant, but whatever they were, they woke Bernie in the night, made him get up and pace around, sometimes lighting a cigarette, even though he'd worked so hard to stop. Bernie didn't commit to anything about Angela DePesto, just gave one of those little nods of his. Bernie was a great nodder. He had several different nods I could think of off the top of my head, all very readable once you knew what to look for. This particular nod meant strike one. The fact is, Angie spoke of you highly, how you stuck it to that creep of a husband. She gave herself a little shake. I can do that way, way better. So when this happened, and you being practically in the neighborhood and all, anyway, here I am. She walked back and forth slightly, the way humans do when they're very nervous. When what happened? This thing with Madison. She's disappeared. Madison is your daughter? Didn't I say that? Sorry. I'm just so upset. I don't know what Her eyes glistened up. This was always pretty interesting, the crying thing. Not the sound. I could relate to that. But the waterworks, as Bernie called them, especially when Lita was on the producing end. They get upset, humans, and then water comes out of their eyes, especially the women. What is that all about? Bernie gazed down at the ground, shuffled his feet. He didn't have a handle on it either, although I'd once seen water seeping out of his own eyes, namely the day Lita had packed up all Charlie's things. Charlie was their kid, Bernie and Lita's, and now lived with Lita except for visits. We missed it, me and Bernie. This woman, Cynthia, Chambliss, whatever her name was. The truth is, I have trouble catching names at first. Sometimes miss other things too, unless I have a real good view of the speaker's face. Took a tissue from a little bag she carried and dabbed at her eyes. Sorry. Nothing to be sorry for. How long has Madison been missing? The woman started to answer, but at that moment I heard something rustling in the bushes on the far side of the driveway. The next thing I knew, I was in the bushes myself, sniffing around, maybe even digging, but only the littlest bit. Some kind of smell was in the air. Frog or toad or... Uh-oh. Snake. I didn't like snakes. Didn't like them at... Chet, you're not digging in there, are you? I backed out of the bushes, trotted over to Bert.
I don't know what he thinks I did to him, but right now he's going to be running the left lane, blocking traffic, and every time I try to pass, he pulls in front of me, makes me slow down, then he speeds up, and he's still pulling this stuff. I have no idea. Yeah. I'm back behind 1,500 yards, something like that. He's got quite a bit of traffic back there. Sorry, I didn't hear you. I don't know. He's blocking everybody right now. I thought it was going to be him. Oh, no. I'm behind him. I'm not upset. I'm just trying to get, okay, I just want to get down the road. This is what I do for a living, okay? And I just don't want to have to deal with this guy, and he's breaking laws right now. He's slowing down, he's speeding up, he's dangerous. We don't need to be separated, lady. You need to get him pulled over. Fuck you. What's the story, buddy?
What's your problem?
What did I do to you?
You cut me off twice.
No, I didn't.
I told you once.
Step back from the truck. First warning.
I told you
Step